Hufflepuff quiz here, so we're going to let you know which member of Hufflepuff has that you most closely resemble. So answer the questions about yourself here and keep track. So question number 1, which of these careers most interests you? Would it be A, scientist, B, a veterinarian or animal researcher, C, FBI agent or spy, D, doctor or nurse, E, professional athlete, or F, politician or salesman? Which of these careers most interests you? Okay, so if you answered with A, scientist, it was 1 point for Ernie Macmillan. If you answered veterinarian or animal researcher, it was 1 point for Newt Scamander. If you answered C for FBI agent or spy, it was 1 point for Nymphadora Tonks. If you answered D, doctor or nurse, it was 1 point for Hannah Abbott. If you answered E, professional athlete, it was 1 point for Cedric Diggory. And if you answered F, politician or salesman, it was 1 point for Zacharias Smith. Question number 2. Which of these is most true about you or the closest? A, I can be critical of other people. B, I can be clumsy. C, I care what people think of me. D, I can sometimes be a bit gullible. E, I am shy and prefer to be by myself rather than with other people. Or F, I sometimes jump to conclusions too quickly. Which of these is most true about you, if you had to pick? Okay, so the answer was A, I can be critical of other people is 1 point for Zacharias Smith. B, I can be clumsy is 1 point for Nymphadora Tonks. C, I care what people think of me is 1 point for Cedric Diggory. D, I can sometimes be a bit gullible is 1 point for Hannah Abbott. E, I am shy is 1 point for Newt Scamander. And F, I sometimes jump to conclusions too quickly is 1 point for Ernie Macmillan. Question number 3, who is your favorite character from this series out of the names listed here? So A, Seamus Finnegan, B, Remus Lupin, C, Ginny Weasley, D, Neville Longbottom, E, Hagrid, or F, Severus Snape. Who is your favorite character from the series out of the names listed here? Okay, so answers here. A, Seamus Finnegan is 1 point for Zacharias Smith. B, Remus Lupin is 1 point for Nymphadora Tonks. C, Ginny Weasley is 1 point for Cedric Diggory. D, Neville Longbottom is 1 point for Hannah Abbott. E, Hagrid is 1 point for Newt Scamander. And F, Severus Snape is 1 point for Ernie Macmillan. Question number 4. Which of these wizarding places would you most like to visit? A, Dervish and Bangs. B, the Leaky Cauldron. C, Ilop's Owl Emporium. D, Sugarplum's Sweets Shop. E, Quality Quidditch Supplies. Or F, Madame Pimpernel's Beautifying Potions. Which of these wizarding places would you most like to visit? All right, so A, Dervish and Bangs was 1 point for Zacharias Smith. B, the Leaky Cauldron was 1 point for Hannah Abbott. C, the Owl Emporium was 1 point for Newt Scamander. D, the Sweet Shop was 1 point for Nymphadora Tonks. E, the Quidditch Supplies Shop was 1 point for Cedric Diggory. And the Beautifying Potion Shop was 1 point for Ernie Macmillan. Question number 5. Which of these wizarding careers would you most want to have? So A, an Auror, B, the matron at Hogwarts, C, professional Quidditch player, D, magizoologist, E, the potions professor at Hogwarts, or F, the minister of magic. Which of these wizarding careers would you most want to have? Okay, so if you answered A, or it was 1 point for Nymphadora Tonks. If you answered B, the matron at Hogwarts, it was 1 point for Hannah Abbott. If you answered professional Quidditch player C, that is 1 point for Cedric Diggory. If you answered D, magizoologist, that is 1 point for Newt Scamander. If you voted E, the potions professor at Hogwarts, that is 1 point for Ernie Macmillan. And if you picked F, the Minister of Magic. That is 1 point for Zacharias Smith. Question number 6. Which of these would you want as your Patronus charm? A boar, B, a basset hound, C, a cat, D, a koala, E, a jackrabbit, or F, a weasel. Which of these animals would you want as your Patronus charm? So if you answered A, a boar, that was 1 point for Ernie Macmillan. If you answered B, a basset hound, that was 1 point for Cedric Diggory. If you answered C, a cat, that was 1 point for Newt Scamander. If you answered D, a koala, that was 1 point for Hannah Abbott. If you answered E, a jackrabbit, that was 1 point for Nymphadora Tonks. And if you answered F, a weasel, that was 1 point for Zacharias Smith. Question number 7. Other than Hufflepuff, which house do you think you'd belong to? A, Gryffindor, B, Ravenclaw, or C, Slytherin? Other than Hufflepuff, which house do you think that you would belong to? So if you answered A, Gryffindor, that was 1 point for Nymphadora Tonks, 1 point for Hannah Abbott, and 1 point for Cedric Diggory. If you answered B, Ravenclaw, that was 1 point for Newt Scamander and 1 point for Ernie Macmillan. And if you answered C, Slytherin, that was 1 point for Zacharias Smith. Okay, so there you have it. So tally your answers up and let me know who you have the most points for. So it's either Nymphadora Tonks, Ernie Macmillan, Cedric Diggory, Newt Scamander, Hannah Abbott, or Zacharias Smith. So you should have been tallying up your points, and whoever you had the most points for, that is the Hufflepuff student that you most closely resemble. Yeah, so let me know who you got in the comment section below, and please subscribe to this channel for more personality quizzes. Gonna keep doing more of these, and yeah, more Harry Potter and wizarding related content coming soon. So thanks a lot.